praying a contemplation, Ignatius gives us a very interesting method. He asks us first to place ourselves in the presence of the Lord and to find a peacefulness, to be attentive to everything that God wants to say to us. And then the second stage is to ask for what we want, to see what the Lord sees, to give us the graces that we need to follow Christ. The next scene, now that we're calm, now that we have a sense of what we want, is to place ourselves in the scene. A little bit like going to the movies, to see and imagine what the Trinity saw, what God sees. Who is there? What are the actions that they perceive in the world? To be in the scene, to feel it, to sense it, to apply all of our knowledge to that, and to be very aware of how we feel, how we sense the world that God sees. In doing that, Ignatius invites us to become personally involved in the contemplation. It is our imagination. It is what we see. It is what we experience, shared obviously with God. And in that perspective, then, we come with our own desires, our own feelings, our own fears and joys, our own things that we want to ask or tell the Lord in a colloquy, in a conversation, and a very simple dialogue with the Lord. And that comes from the heart. It comes from the experience of what we've seen and sensed. And that is the fruit of the meditation. We end, perhaps, to make it a formal ending with an Our Father or a Hail Mary, so that we don't just simply move into a distraction. And that helps us to block the time, to make it a movie that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And finally, Ignatius and many people who have done the exercises suggest that we take some notes. What were the things that were really important for us in that contemplation, so that we can look back later and see and remember and have that experience of the contemplation that we had the first time. The spiritual exercises of Ignatius begins with the principle and foundation in first week, where we are asked to reflect in our createdness, that we're made by God to love God, to serve God, and to do good. But then we quickly understand that we don't always do what we're created for. There's sinfulness, there's brokenness. And after coming to grips with the fact that we are not what we are called to be, Ignatius introduces a central meditation, the contemplation on the Incarnation. And he invites us to see the world as God sees the world. He asks us to look with the eyes of the Trinity, to see a world that is broken, that is in darkness, that is filled with sinfulness and violence, and to see the discussion, to hear the discussion of the Trinity, of what can be done to remedy this, and the decision to send the second person, to send Christ into the world, to help bring the good news, to invite us to do good, to avoid the sins that we've committed, and to make that reign of God known. In doing that, Ignatius also invites us to respond. How do we feel? What do we see? What do we decide to do based on what we have experienced in that contemplation?